Tonight, the father of a man whose mutilated body was found in a reservoir was disturbed to learn his son's girlfriend is now among 3 people charged.
To get them all.
Parker says this has torn his family up.
Only thing that really bothers me right now is how they did it. I mean, I just hope he didn't have to suffer.
Every day I think about him. Every day. Like I said, every day is a different day.
What can people do to help you?
I don't know what people can do. Just continue to pray. And justice, definitely is being served. And as she said, get them all. And I want everybody to pay for what they did to my son.
It's plenty of evidence to show that, he never did anything wrong. There's no evidence that he hurt anybody. There's no evidence of any of those things, okay? So at the same time, we just want to continue to say that we're thankful. He's still able to provide for our family, and that is because of his supporters. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for continuing to subscribe to the website. So we're blessed. We're blessed, and abundance is continue to fall in our family, in our household. Most guys, y'all can't even provide for your family, and you out here free. My husband locked up, and he's still providing for this family, still making sure all the bills are paid. And anything I want, he gonna make sure I get it. If anything our daughters needs, he's gonna make sure they have that, okay? So we blessed over here. Hey, we ain't hurting. Last time I came on here, I was kind of, distraught because of the things that was taking place on my husband. But no, I want to come on here letting y'all know that no, we very blessed over here. And my only main concern is right now is I have not spoken to him. But I honestly do know that he's protected. I honestly do know that he will be contacting me. And I'm hoping this week. And I know everything will work out fine. We're so strong. Like I said, I wouldn't wish this on nobody, on nobody's family. But you know what? I'm happy it is happening to us, because obviously this is happening for a bigger purpose and a bigger reasoning. Nothing happens for accident.
A quiet day near the Dog River Reservoir in Georgia became the beginning of a disturbing mystery when workers expanding the reservoir made a horrifying discovery. Beneath the water were human remains. At first, investigators had no name, no identity, no clear explanation of who the victim was or how they ended up there. All they had was a mystery waiting to be solved. For weeks, detectives worked to uncover the truth. They examined evidence, searched records, and tried to connect the remains to someone who had been reported missing. Then, investigators found a crucial clue, a recognizable tattoo that helped point them toward the identity of the victim. That victim was eventually identified as 37-year-old Jamal Rashad Parker. Jamal was not just a name in a police report. To the people who knew him, he was a talented bartender, artist, and musician. He was remembered as someone who brought energy and happiness to those around him, someone who enjoyed making people smile and creating moments that people would remember. But the discovery at the reservoir revealed a heartbreaking reality. The life of a man who brought joy to others had ended in tragedy. The question investigators now faced was one that would drive the entire case. Who killed Jamal Rashad Parker and why? The investigation would eventually lead authorities to a home in Douglasville, Georgia, where investigators believed Jamal was killed. But the case became even more complicated when detectives began looking closely at someone who had been near Jamal shortly before his death, his girlfriend, Ambria Boyd. Authorities later arrested Boyd and charged her with murder, making false statements, and obstruction. Investigators alleged that she knew the person they believe was responsible for Jamal's death, and that she had reportedly been staying at that person's home. But as investigators continued searching for answers, one question remained at the center of the case. What really happened during Jamal's final moments? This is the story of Jamal Rashad Parker. Before his name became connected to a homicide investigation, Jamal was known by friends and family as a man full of personality and creativity. He built a life around connecting with people. As a bartender in Atlanta, he was surrounded by countless individuals who knew him for his friendly nature, and ability to make others feel welcome. For many bartenders, the job is more than serving drinks. It is about conversation, relationships, and creating an experience. Jamal was known for that ability. He could make people laugh. He could make strangers feel like friends. He had a way of bringing positive energy into a room. Outside of his work, Jamal had a passion for art and music. Creativity was part of who he was. It gave him a way to express himself and share his talents with others. Those who knew him remembered a person who had dreams, ambitions, and a future ahead of him. No one expected that his story would become connected to a criminal investigation. No one expected that the search for him would begin with remains discovered underwater. When workers at the Dog River Reservoir discovered human remains in May, authorities immediately began investigating. The location created a difficult challenge. There was no victim's name. There was no confirmed identity. There was only evidence waiting to reveal the truth. Investigators began the careful process of identifying the remains. They examined details that could provide answers and searched for any information that could lead them to the person who had died. Every clue mattered. Every piece of evidence could change the direction of the investigation. Then came the breakthrough. A tattoo found on the remains gave investigators a possible lead. It was a detail that helped narrow the search and move the case closer to identifying the victim. But authorities needed confirmation. They needed scientific proof. DNA testing using a sample from Jamal's father eventually confirmed the identity of the remains. The victim was Jamal Rashad Parker. For Jamal's family, the discovery brought a painful combination of emotions. After weeks of uncertainty, they finally had answers about what happened to their loved one. But those answers created even more questions. How did Jamal end up at the reservoir? Who was responsible? And what happened before his death? Once Jamal was identified, investigators began rebuilding the timeline of his final days. They looked at his movements, his relationships, and the people who had contact with him before his death. In homicide investigations, investigators often focus on the last known moments of a victim's life. Those moments can reveal important clues about what happened. The investigation eventually brought detectives to Douglasville, Georgia. Authorities focused on a home where they believed Jamal's death occurred. The location became an important part of the investigation, as detectives worked to understand the events that led to the discovery at the reservoir. But the investigation took another unexpected turn. The focus shifted towards someone who was not a stranger to Jamal, someone who had a personal connection with him, his girlfriend, Ambria Boyd. Investigators began examining Boyd's relationship with Jamal and what information she may have had about the circumstances surrounding his death. Authorities allege that Boyd knew the person they believe was responsible for Jamal's death. They also stated that she had reportedly been staying at the home connected to the investigation. Boyd was later arrested and charged with murder, making false statements, and obstruction. However, criminal charges are allegations, and the legal process must determine the facts of the case. The arrest represented a major development, but it did not answer every question. Investigators still needed to prove exactly what happened and how each person connected to the case played a role. For Jamal's family and friends, the case was about more than evidence and court proceedings. It was about remembering a person who had a family, a person who had friends, a person who had talents and dreams, a person whose life had value. When a crime happens, the victim can sometimes become reduced to headlines and police reports. But behind every headline is a human being with a story. Jamal was someone who made people feel good, someone who used his personality and creativity to connect with others. His death left questions that investigators continue to work to answer. The legal process will determine responsibility based on the evidence presented. But for those who knew Jamal, the hope remains the same, that the truth will eventually come out and that justice will be served. The discovery at Dog River Reservoir began as a mystery. a set of remains without a name, a story without answers. But through investigation, a tattoo, and DNA testing, the victim was finally identified. He was not just remains found in the water. He was Jamal Rashad Parker, a bartender, an artist, a musician, a person remembered by those who loved him. And as investigators continue searching for the full truth behind his death, his story remains a reminder that every victim has a life behind the headlines. Every victim has memories. Every victim has people who miss them. And every victim deserves to have their story told.